promise I'm gonna make my raspberry crumb bars for you guys. So here I go. Okay, first things first, I'm actually gonna put the recipe in my description box. I just don't have it on me right now, and I wanted to explain this to you in detail. So first you want to use butter. The butter, please make sure that it's been sitting for like overnight, hours. It makes such a big difference. I used to not wait for it to get soft, and it was so much harder. Then you want to mix in the sugar and blend it all together. You can totally use a mixer. I own a mixer, I just don't use it. I like a fork for some reason. Now I'm going to add the flour. This is the part, it's actually a very simple recipe. But the flour, you can just throw the whole thing in there. And you want to start mixing it, and eventually it's going to look like it's very piecey and it's not coming together, but it shouldn't. It's supposed to be like a crumble. Um, and at this point it should be crumbly. So right now I'm using a whole bag of almond slices, but I like to break them up even smaller, and then I use that to mix the last bits of the actual crumb bar. If you want to test out if the dough is coming together, just kind of grab your fingers and like test it out. But at this point, if it looks like this, crumbly and kind of piecey, it's all good. So now you want to take about a little over half of the dough batter, however you want to phrase it, and you want to start to create a perfect square. This has taken me forever, many times and years to figure out how to make a perfect square, but usually the best way to do it is using your hands and like using your hand as a wall. You want to press it into the pan. I think it's a good idea to use a wax paper underneath, like a parchment paper. It just makes everything so much smoother for cleanup. You also want to make sure that everything's very even, because if it's like a very thick side or the very edge is too thin, that part can burn and it won't be even and the bars will be all confused. So you want to throw it in the oven. You're going to want to wait about 10 to 15, 20 minutes. You want to see that the very edge brown, but not too brown. So now you take a half jar of raspberry jam, not jelly, not preserves, jam. There's only one and they have like little seeds in them, but it tastes so good. So the jam is so important. Now at this point, when every little nook and every edge is perfect, that's when you want to take the rest of the crumble and you like literally crumble it on top. So you want to envision these as little crumb bars. So every little edge, every little spot should have like an even amount. It also should be even so that when it's cooking, it's going to be even and there's not going to be parts that are burned or undercooked. You want to make sure that it's a pretty even level layer of crumble. At this point, you want to throw it in the oven. Again, I eyeball things, so I don't really write down the exact time of when they should be coming out of the oven, but you want to see that the bottom's nice and brown. And while it's still kind of warm, but not completely still hot, because you don't want it to break too much, I take a pizza cutter and make little crumb bars. I make little squares so it's easier because it's so rich. The jam is very rich and sweet, so you don't want the pieces to be too big, because then people probably won't eat them or enjoy them as much. I think they're better served in smaller bits. And then as soon as they cool down, then I put them into Tupperware, and then everyone gets to enjoy them. And a piece of advice, if you're ever sharing this with family or friends, just say that they're your world famous raspberry crumb bars. It makes people kind of remember it, and it does taste that way.